Welcome to the Focused Fundraiser today. This is where we discuss how to focus on the right fundraising practices with fundraisers who are in the trenches and learning day in and day out what works and what doesn't. So today I am joined by David Robertson, who is the founder of Joshway. From what I've seen, I'll let you speak more to this, David, but you have a very practical lens on how fundraising and leaders can build programs that people trust and fund over time. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, Rob, thank you for having us on today. Really excited for the opportunity just to chat a little bit. And I see you got the DonorDock jersey on. We love you. So kudos to you and your team for doing an awesome job. So, but yeah,
Well,
Joshua. Yeah,
yeah, let's jump into it. Tell me your story. What started Joshway? All of that.
so Joshua, we're about 3.5 years old. We started this mission. Actually, on a sad note, I lost my little brother to modern day challenges. He was dealing with mental health and he didn't have the right coping mechanisms and ended up taking a Xanax and had fentanyl in it. And, when we lost Josh, I had a choice to make, and I chose to start a youth-focused organization to help really the youth find their purpose in life. And so it's been great. Come from the fintech industry, so app to build, a lot about technology. So we went to building mode, and here we are, 3.5 years in, living our Josh way and having a lot of fun helping the youth.
Mm, that's so powerful. I know that there are a lot of listeners that are founders as well, and a lot of founders start their nonprofit from a very deep emotional connection to just exactly what you just talked about, David. Can you speak a little bit on that? What's it been like to start up a nonprofit that's so closely tied to your own personal life?
Yeah, well, it's bittersweet, right? It has its good and its bad. With my background, I've always in my professional career. Um, I would say I'm apt to build. I know collaboration and I've started several divisions and worked trade shows and people management. And so the hands were, trained to build. And so to be able to kind of build something that is near and dear to your heart, the emotional and the pain is your superpower, right? It's leaning into that, not easy always, waking up 5 a.m., muscling through that, but it beats the alternative, right? That energy has to go somewhere. Like I tell my story is I choose to wake up every day and, use my skills for good versus the other way around. And so it's a monument. It's a story to honor a life that was taken too soon, not realizing that there's many other Josh's story out there. So we're building for them, and they're my why to live again for legacy and honor of Josh. Is when you lean into that, it's a lot better. But we just choose to build and use our tech and our skills for good. And then, like I said, it's been an honor to be called, I think, as servants to community. This mission could have been given to anyone, but we were fortunate, and life was, called us to build, and we're grateful for that, and we hold it with great responsibility. And it's been, like I said, amazing to build something from passion, but seeing that the youth really needs a Joshua in their life.
That's such a powerful mindset. Choice is always on us, right?
That's
So
right.
pivoting a bit into how you built this. So you're from the fintech sector, the for-profit
Mhm.
sector.
Yeah.
What lessons did you pull over from your for-profit career into the nonprofit sector that fundraisers could learn from? What's been successful from that?
Yeah, everything. Everything. Like, not, a nonprofit is a business, everything about a for profit, it's literally the same. I think my ability to build and have like a customer journey, or we call it a donor journey, if you're looking for donors, you can pull from, if you're a business development, there's a lot of lessons learned in that. And because I came from that space, that makes sense. And then from impact, which is data, KPIs and data, like that's important. So if you coming from the fintech space and being built, like I've start divisions, I've led mergers and acquisitions. And so I really leaned into that. And the funny part about it is the business acumen is a strong foundation for a nonprofit. So for an example, like you do your accounting treatment, right? And I come from, your basic accounting, and but you now have to take, your income and expense in the business world is a way to present that. So what I had to learn is how to take that strong foundation and kind of modify some of the terminology to be grant ready. I rather come from a business acumen and then modify, let's say, 20% of the data to fit grant readiness versus the other way around. So we had an advantage to really start off with how we look at data, how we, report our chart of accounts. And the challenge for us was like, okay, now how do we fit this chart of accounts to be grant ready? And then how to, count in expenses versus income, right? And so, but that was an easy challenge. You just have to have some experts around you. And being that you're a nonprofit, like everyone has an awesome heart to want to show up to modify that data to fit it to be grant ready. And then the other piece in sales, like stewardship, it shouldn't feel any different than if you're in fintech asking for a merchant account, except for there are some differences, right? It's now you're leaning into the ROI, at least for Joshway, is philanthropic. It's seeing the kids, starting something that they created because they believe they can and they got the right support. So how do you quantify that ROI? You quantify it by the impact that you're making in the kids' lives. And so just to understand how do you report on your ROI, and also stewardship, right? It's important, to have that customer journey. And that's why I shout out to DonorDock. You guys make that so easy. When you give once, there's a proper cadence and there's a formula that you have to lean in on to turn that donor into a repeat donor. And then after that, you want them forever. But again, just having that business acumen, you really, really have a strong start into the nonprofit space. You just got to know where to kind of adjust to meet the industry where it's at. And that's what I had to do like quickly because I didn't grow up in the nonprofit space. And I'm like, I'm 100% fintech, 25 years. So coming from someone that really just dove into this industry just to want to make the difference, those are some of the things that I've noticed, but all overcomable with the right camp and the right team around you.
You touched on a few different things, so I'll try to rehash some of them. But when you talk about data, the importance of data and the metrics that you're using to make data informed decisions rather than just saying this is what we think will work, but actually looking at the data, are there metrics that you guys or that you personally are looking at closely this year? And can you speak a little bit to, I don't want to become an ad for DonorDock at all, but speak to the
Yeah.
importance of a CRM, because I think most
Yeah.
fundraisers understand the importance, but it usually is on the bottom of their to-do list.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you look at so we actually started off with like Zoho because that's like what we knew. And I look at that CRM. And it's there's two things that you want to achieve, right? Number one is your income, your stewardship, right? And that's where you got to make sure you have the right CRM to do that because it's not easy to keep track of that and know when to send a recurring invite or when to make the ask or how to kind of flirt with the donor to have them come up with the first ask, right? And Zoho was lacking that. That was hard for me. Could you build it? Yeah, but there's so much that you would have to do. But on the flip side, if it comes to impact, how many students have we mentored today, or how many classes have we ran, and the surveying, and what was the outcome of it, and you'll see that that maybe Zoho is strong on that. But in reality, like there's a lot of CRMs out there that can help you with for like impact tracking. Like we use Airtable for that. But the heartbeat of your organization is the donors, right? And so you really need to have an awesome stewardship donor doc type of database to do that. So then on Joshways, right? Because our mission is very, very heavy and philanthropic. Like we're literally telling kids to dream big and chase their dreams. There are stories of, depression and anxiety, but for us to shine the light of who we are, bold and resilient, and we create our own, like we design things. And if you follow us, you're like, well, what are they doing? I'm like, we're creating. And it's not me. Like we've done children books, we've done podcasts, we have young people doing podcasts, and people are like, what is Joshua? I'm like, you're answering the question. Is getting the kids to build and invest in their future. They just need a little support along the way. And so those stories is what we're building, and we're writing them every single day. I was just in a classroom earlier today, and the kids, they were fired up. They're 11th, 12th graders, and I'm telling them to dare mighty things and believe. And then you get awesome feedback, and I'm reading them and saying I'm inspired to, to make a difference. One kid was struggling with mental health, and I told him about Josh. Another kid said, hey, listen, I'm wrestling with addiction. I was literally about to thought about committing suicide like recently, but then I saw a light in his eye. I saw him today after we spoke. He came up to me and he said, David, thank you for seeing me and making me feel visible. And what did I do? I shared our story. I was like, you're awesome within. And now we get to support that young person, and not alone. We work with his school just to see, him move. And so those are our KPIs. Those are those stories that we're inspiring. And yeah, there are other matrix that we do. Like there's a leadership arm to what we do, where we help the kids go through 5 pillars of life skills. And when we're working in the classroom, really on like our programming, what we like to say is our theory of change, right? Go through a pathway, learn a skill, whether it's life skills, whether it's safe tech. And then when you finish that course or that chapter of that we collaborate with the schools, then the piece that matters the most is when we give them an opportunity to take their Joshway pledge. And that pledge is, I pledge to do something based off of what I learned today. And so those pledges are very valuable. So the stories and the stories that the kids tell, them creating and designing and building like Joshua, and then those pledges turning into action is how we quantify the work that we do. Because again, we are very, very philanthropic. It's a sad story, but it's also a story of hope, boldness, and resilience.
That's wonderful. So you touched on, your who you're serving are youth, and they're helping create content, and you're pushing that out for organizations that are doing something similar. Do you have any advice on how do you ethically do that without it becoming marketing props, but it's still like it's supporting and celebrating what they're creating with and showcasing that as value to the donor base without it becoming marketing?
Yeah, it's a a success story. Like you can go to like one of our websites, shop.joshway.org, and you'll really see my fintech and nonprofit piece come together, where we're designing shirts and we're collaborating with young artists. Like one girl, her name's Amelia. She's actually in Indiana. I'm like, aren't you in Pennsylvania? Yeah. So how'd you get in Indiana? Well, the internet. I travel a lot, and the story was Amelia was wrestling with mental health too, but with her church community, her friends, she overcame that, and then so she designed a shirt, and it was like "Faith Takes Flight." And so we were able to take that design, and on the back we had her design, and on the front is our logo. But she was
Mm.
leaning into her entrepreneur skills. Like she's a designer, she's an entrepreneur. We're not just making shirts here. We're giving the kids the opportunity to flex that entrepreneur muscle while storytelling. And we got a video from her family that they sent it. And, Rob, it was amazing. Like, first of all, she got a box and she's like, I'm holding a shirt that I designed. And she looks at the back of that logo and saying, I remember I overcame this thing. But now there's mom, uncle, cousin, everyone wearing it, championing her story. That's uplifting. And that's just one way of that art can help tell the story. And yeah, then, people want to support Amelia and Joshua, that follows, but it's all about giving the kids the opportunity to tell their story.
So good. I love that. I am an artist at heart, so you're speaking my love language right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to stewardship, so another thing you touched on earlier is stewardship and stewarding your donor base and your those that you're serving well. What's your approach to building donor trust in the stewardship model?
I had to learn 2 things, right? I'm like kind of shy by nature when it comes to asking people for help. So you got to be bold to know, like, hey, hey, can I have money? Right? It's something that you have to overcome. Without the dollars, then your mission doesn't, can't survive. And don't think of it as that, but it's support, right? So you got to make sure that you have the courage to ask. And, for me, it's like, be authentic, tell the stories. The stories is what move, the needle. And that's why I wanted to talk about the young student that had a light of hope after we were in the classroom. And I was just telling him my story. And then also Amelia, like these are the stories that make donors want to, be part of it. I've also learned is invite them on the mission. And I tell everybody that wants to support Joshway from a funding perspective, I'm like, of course we want your money, but what is your Joshway? Like, what are you doing that you are sitting on? Like, come on now, right? And because of that, we have donors that have co-written children's books for us. Joshua and the Power of Resilience is one, and we're writing another one, and it's all based on competencies because a donor wanted to teach kids competencies and they happen to be a writer. So I said, like, yeah, come join us, like, support us, but let's work together to write that book. And 6 months later, Joshua and the Power of Resilience was created. So it's all about showing them the why, but making sure that they know that beyond just the donor dollar, especially for Joshua, like write your name in our DNA. And if you have a loved one, like let's honor them. And so another thing that we've done is we have a scholarship with our with a local community college, and I started it on in the honor of Josh because I wanted to help high school students transitioning to college. And several donors were inspired by that. So now the Joshua Scholarship has multiple names to it because I said, put your loved one and stitch that into that scholarship. And it's we, the people, the ones that have gone on before us, that's going to hold these kids together. And so building legacy and hope, that's our story. And then I truly believe, like, don't keep your loved ones in the ground. Let's honor them by action. And Joshua is just full of that passion, and it's been an honor to see everyone wanting to honor their loved ones through our mission as well.
Yeah, yeah, you touched on the power of storytelling. I think that's so important. It's yes, also need to be brave and ask for the money, but the story is what makes you want to give the money and makes you want to
Uh,
donate your time. So I love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if a listener or a viewer is a one person or small development shop, what is if you were to give them advice for the next 30 days to diversify their revenue or tighten their messaging, just from your perspective of building a nonprofit, what would you recommend the next 30 days for these small shops to be?
Yeah. Your messaging is clear. Your messaging has to be clear. Trust me, I know it's hard. Like we're
Mhm.
building something that has never been, there are other as far as our models are out there, but really like, we're a younger generation that's building a nonprofit in the midst of a busy life. And what we're trying to do is lean in on like life skills and be a support pillar in digital literacy. So there's a lot going on with what we're doing. And because it's not like your traditional, maybe the Boys and Girls Club or, some of these amazing nonprofits that's been doing it for years, people want to see us as those organizations, but we are truly a capacity building organization where we run behind them. They're awesome. They're doing the work. Like we just want to come in and show, how to build with AI and how to have a healthy relationship with technology and teach life skills. And these are gaps as a father to some kids. Like I'm like, we need to lean in on that. And my generation grew up on technology. So understanding that our messaging every day is getting clearer and clearer, and seek feedback. Like I ask everyone and have thick skin. Don't take it personal if they're like, this is not like right. Okay, great. Be a student to specific critical feedback. And then what I love getting that feedback and then going back to the individual and saying, hey, I heard what you said, and I saw some value in it. But ask for help. I've asked a lot of people for help, and it's okay. Just keep working on your messaging because as soon as people can understand your mission, and one of our mentors would always say, I need to be able to tell what you do and then in 10 seconds at cocktail hour. And if I can't do that, then we got a problem. So that's your nugget. Can you tell your story on what you do in less than 10 seconds? And can others echo it back? And that's where we're at in our journey because we do a lot, and we're getting better at it every day. But that has truly been one of our biggest, challenges, but joy to keep working at it. And I think we're getting really, really close to that.
All right, David, I always end on what I call the tactical takeaway, something very tactical for fundraisers to do today. So, David, what is one thing that every fundraiser should do today that you believe matters most?
Yeah, yeah. Remember why you started your mission and stay true to it. Reflection.
It's good. Expand on that.
Stay true. Yeah. What I mean by that is, oftentimes, like, for me anyway, I look back and I remember us doing a recording. And I always, as you're building, you can get lost on your why. You can get lost in a lot of things. And I love to reflect often, every day. Am I building Joshway for Josh, my why, and those kiddos? Right. And that is a reflection, and stay the course, and don't let anyone or anybody detour you from your mission. You know what you're building. So hold yourself accountable always, every day, and start with, am I staying true to my why? And if you do, life is going to just keep opening those doors for you, and be, patient and kind and forgiving to yourself. And like I said, even if it gets a little lonely sometimes, knowing that, you are the master of every situation, just be patient, and always remember your why.
So good. Such good advice to end it. David, thank you so much for giving your advice freely to fellow fundraisers.
Yeah, thank you for having me again, Rob.
For those listening, if you are curious about how DonorDock can help you find that clarity and build a strong donor base through smart stewardship, like the donor journeys that David mentioned, visit us at DonorDock.com and we'll help you out. So we'll see you next week.